Most beginners hear the same advice over and over again: diversify your portfolio, add some bonds, don't put everything in stocks. And most beginners follow that advice without ever asking why. Here's what they don't tell you. In 2022, the people who added bonds specifically to be safe lost money on their bonds and their stocks at the same time. The 60 over 40 portfolio dropped 17.5% that year, its worst performance since 1937. Today, I'm breaking down the 3 mistakes beginners make, and I'll give you a simple framework to decide. Welcome to Grow with Tony. I'm Tony, and today we're finally settling the stocks versus bonds debate for beginners. Quick note before we dive in. This video is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. Please do your own research. Here's the thing. Stocks versus bonds is one of the very first decisions every new investor has to make. And it sounds simple on the surface. Stocks for growth, bonds for safety. Done. But most people are thinking about this completely wrong. They're following rules they've heard 1,000 times without understanding the why. And when you don't understand the why, you make the wrong call for your situation. We'll start with a quick primer on what bonds actually are. All right, let's start with the basics. What is a bond? When a company or a government needs to raise money, one way they do it is by borrowing. And when they borrow from investors like you and me, that loan is called a bond. You lend them money, they pay you interest, called a coupon, and at the end of a set period, you get your principal back. On paper, that sounds very safe. The default risk is low. But here's what most beginners miss. Bonds have price risk. The price of a bond moves in the opposite direction of interest rates. When rates go up, bond prices go down. When rates go down, bond prices go up. Most people don't buy individual bonds. They buy bond ETFs. The 2 most common ones you'll see are BND, the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF, and AGG, the iShares Core US Aggregate Bond ETF. These hold thousands of bonds. So how have bonds performed compared to stocks over the long run? Based on data going back to 1926, a portfolio of 100% stocks has delivered an average annual return of about 10.3%. A 100% bond portfolio? About 6.1%. And a 60-40 split? About 9.1%. Before I get to the mistakes, let me make the case for the other side first, because it's a strong one. Warren Buffett, widely considered the greatest investor of all time, famously wrote in his 2013 letter to Berkshire Hathaway shareholders, 90% in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund and 10% in short-term government bonds. 90% stocks, the most famous investor in the world. Now, that 10% wasn't really about diversification. It was more like a cash reserve. Money available to use during bad stretches, so you're not forced to sell stocks at the wrong time. If you have a long enough time horizon, the stock market has historically rewarded patience. Every single crash in history, 1920, 1987, the dot-com bubble, 2008, 2020, has eventually recovered. And if you've got 25 or 30 years until you need the money, you have time to ride out those crashes. For someone in their 20s or 30s, that time horizon is real. A market crash in year 2 means very little if you're not touching that money for another 3 decades. So the 100% stocks argument isn't reckless. The math genuinely supports it. But most beginners skip right over the part about staying calm during downturns. And that leads us directly to mistake number 1. Here's the first mistake: treating bonds as a safe investment. Full stop. Bonds are safe from one specific risk: the issuer defaulting and not paying you back. U.S. government bonds? Yes, very safe in that sense. But bonds are not safe from price risk. And 2022 proved that in the most painful way possible. In 2022, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates aggressively, the fastest rate hikes in decades, to fight inflation. Bond prices move opposite to interest rates. So as rates went up, bond prices got crushed. AGG, the popular bond ETF, dropped about 13% in 2022. The worst 4-month stretch for bonds, January through April, saw a decline of 9.5%. Meanwhile, the stock market was also down. The S&P 500 lost roughly 18% to 19% that year. So if you held that safe 60 over 40 portfolio, you lost money on both sides at the same time. The 60 over 40 dropped 17.5%, the worst year since 1937. The lesson isn't that bonds are bad, it's that the word safe is doing a lot of heavy lifting. If interest rates rise significantly, bonds lose money. Full stop. When someone says add bonds to be safe, what they really mean is add bonds to reduce stock market volatility. That's a much more specific and conditional statement, and it leads us to mistake number 2. For most of the past few decades, the relationship between stocks and bonds was beautifully predictable. When stocks fell, bonds tended to rise. That negative correlation made bonds incredibly powerful as a hedge. If you owned both, a bad year for stocks was often cushioned by a good year for bonds. But 2022 showed us something important. That relationship isn't permanent. When both assets are hit by the same force, rising inflation, they can fall together. The diversification benefit disappears. The stock-bond correlation flipped from negative to significantly positive during 2022. At its peak in mid-2024, the 12-month correlation reached 0, meaning they were moving together almost in lockstep. That's basically the opposite of diversification. Now, by late 2025, that correlation had come back down to about 0.16, which is much more normal. But there's no guarantee it stays that way. If inflation surges again, bonds and stocks could fall together again. This doesn't mean you should never hold bonds. It means you shouldn't hold them with the assumption that they'll always protect you when stocks crash. The protection is real, but it's conditional, not guaranteed. The third mistake is following the classic rule of thumb. Subtract your age from 100, and that's your stock allocation, without asking what that rule is actually trying to solve. So at age 30, you'd be 70% stocks, 30% bonds. At 50, you'd be 50-50. Many financial planners today have updated this to 110 or 120 minus your age, because people are living longer. So the rules keep shifting. But here's the real problem. They tell you what without explaining why. Consider two people who are both 30 years old. Same age, same rule, right? Person A has a stable income, no major expenses, investing for retirement, 35 years away. For them, holding 30% bonds might genuinely be a unnecessary drag on their returns. Person B is saving for a house down payment in 3 years, on top of investing for retirement. For them, having bonds or cash for that near-term goal makes a lot of sense. Same age, very different situations. One rule fits neither of them perfectly. The rule of thumb isn't wrong, it's just incomplete. And that's exactly what the framework I'm about to give you provides. All right, here's the part that actually helps you decide. Ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1. When do you actually need this money? If you need this money within the next 1 to 5 years, for a house, a car, a business, that portion should be in bonds or even just cash. You can't afford a 40% drop right before you spend it. If this money won't be touched for 10 years or more, stocks have historically worked much better. Question 2. Will you panic sell if your portfolio drops 40%? Be honest with yourself, because a 40% drop is not hypothetical. It has happened multiple times and will happen again. If you'd stay the course, keep investing, and not touch it, then a heavier stock allocation may work for you. But if there's a real chance you'd sell during a crash, because it's scary, because everyone's panicking, then bonds aren't just about return optimization, they're about keeping you in the game. A smoother ride with slightly lower returns is infinitely better than selling at the bottom and locking in a loss. Question 3. Are you within 5 to 10 years of retirement? This one matters because of something called sequence of returns risk. If the market crashes in the first year or two after you start withdrawing, it can permanently damage your portfolio. If you're getting close to retirement, shifting more into bonds to reduce that risk starts to make sense. So a simple starting framework, and this is not financial advice, just a way to think about it. In your 20s and 30s, with decades ahead, 90 to 100% stocks tends to be a reasonable place to start. In your 40s, with shorter-term goals or if you'd panic, something like 80 over 20, Or 70 over 30 might make more sense. As you get into your 50s and start approaching retirement, gradually shifting more into bonds. The key word in all of that is you, your timeline, your behavior, your goals. So let's wrap this up. The question isn't 100% stocks or bonds. The better question is, what do I actually need? 3 mistakes to avoid. Don't assume bonds are always safe. They have price risk. Don't assume bonds always protect you when stocks fall. 2022 proved correlation can break down. And don't follow a rule of thumb without understanding the why behind it. Instead, ask yourself, when do I need the money? Can I stay calm? How close am I to retirement? If this helped you, I'd love it if you subscribed and hit the notification bell. I put out videos like this every week to help you invest smarter without the noise. Drop a comment. Are you team 100% stocks? Or do you hold bonds? See you in the next one.